been a while, but I'm delighted to welcome everyone back to Season 2 of Cuik Talk, the official podcast of Penicuik Athletic Football Club. I'm your host, Dougie Penman, and God, I need to get back used to doing this. It's going to be a strange one, so bear with us as we go ahead with the kicking off the new season of Cuik Talk. Delighted to be back, and I hope that everyone that enjoyed Season 1, as I'm now calling it, I hope you enjoy this one and stick with it, and we'll hopefully have some very good guests for you going forward. And starting off tonight, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome someone who's was an inspiration for bringing back Cuik Talk, I'll be honest. It's former Penicuik midfielder Lewis Barr. Lewy, how you doing?
I'm good, Dougie. Aye, doing away, and it's good to see you again and have a chat.
It's been a while. So the reason I've got you on tonight is we'll focus on your two spells at Penicuik, but we're going to go sort of walk through your career. You started off in your youth days. You spent time at Tynecastle, Rangers, Dunfermline, before you finally signed for East Fife at age 17. And prior to joining Penicuik for the first time, you had a loan spell at Livingston United, and then, like I say, you joined Penicuik on loan in March 2013. But what was going through your mind when you were first sort of approached about coming to Penicuik for the first time?
Well, as you said, I went to Livingston just before that. I think I was there for about 6 months, and I just never enjoyed it, mate. Obviously, around about that time, I was really young. The only saving grace was I went to Livingston with two other boys for East Fife, so it was like 3 apprentices going. But I didn't get a lot of game time. You were just going into a changing room with men. It was just difficult. So I came back to East Fife. I actually asked to come back. I said, obviously, I didn't want to do it. And then the Penicuik thing came up. So I just wanted to play games at that point, because the reserve league wasn't great at East Fife. So I was quite happy just to go and get games. But then I went for Lewy, no playing, and never made many appearances in my first Penicuik spell, mate. So
I've got you made 5 appearances in your time at Penicuik. Your debut came against Glenrothes before your first and only start came a few weeks later in a 5-3 defeat at Newborough. But I don't know if you remember, we played Forfar West End the week before in another cup tie, and it was I was doing the flag that day, and it was the first time I think you'd actually met me, and you came over before kick-off and started shaking my hand going, you have a good game, you have a good game, and everything, like Ken will be good to you. And I'm walking away going, does he ken I'm for Penicuik, or does he think I'm some random for Forfar? So I don't know if that was some gamesmanship on your end.
To be fair, I think you had a really good game, Dougie, so I think it worked, and that was quite strange, because after that I was quite I wasn't too great with linesmen after that. I think the only linesman that I've actually been polite to. So
I'll take that.
I never knew that until now. That's a brilliant story, that. But I don't remember my first appearance against Glenrothes, but I remember the Newborough game, because obviously I hadn't been playing, and I thought, right, this is my chance. I think Newborough were they maybe a league or 2 leagues below?
They were the North Division, and we were Premier, so division below.
Aye, so I was kind of thinking, there was actually a boy for East Fife that was playing for Newborough.
Right.
So I thought, they'll be an easy touch, good first debut, and I had a shocker, Dougie. I just remember, I know it should have been more. And I just remember thinking, I'm really toiling now, but as I said, I think I was only 17. Believe it or not, I was actually skinnier back then than I am now. So
much.
It was just difficult coming in. So, but a good learning curve looking back.
I suppose if your first start was 3-1 up with 10 minutes to go and losing 5-3, just it's a learning curve for you.
Of course it is. And I've got to say, I don't think I had a hand in any of the goals, but I do remember, mate, I had a poor performance. So you're kind of thinking, obviously you struggled to get into the team. Penicuik, that was an experience, a decent Penicuik side. So, that's where you're thinking, try and take your chance. But I think I wasn't ready for men's football at that time, Dougie. I was too slightly built, probably mentally quite young as well, even at 17, to play juniors. And it was tough. You didn't realise until you till you play at that standard, Dougie, it's a tough standard, mate. So it was one that I try to quickly forget.
Well, after that, you returned to East Fife, and you were then straight into League One the following season, and made your debut. And I've got here that you scored your first goal for them in December 2013 against Airdrieonians, but I've also seen claims it was an own goal. So what are you saying? OG, or is it a Lewis Barr special?
Aye, just touching on after my first goal for East Fife, came quite a while after my debut, but about 3 or 4 weeks before my debut for East Fife, we played Rangers in a league game. They were actually in League One at the time. And I remember that I wasn't on the bench, I wasn't in the stand, I was actually made to work in the club shop at Bayview. So Dougie, like 3 or 4 weeks before my debut, that's how far away I was for the East Fife first team. And then we played a reserve game. Robbie Nielsen came in, and Gary Naismith and Kevin Rutowich. So they three came in and they were helping like the reserve team, and that's kind of how I got my break, Doug. We played a reserve game at Ayr away, and we were getting beat 5-0 at half time, and it was just obviously away to Ayr, horrible. But I actually went out and had probably my best game I had for East Fife, and I think it was Gary Naismith and Kev Rutowich went back to the manager, Will Aitchison at the time, and obviously just passed on that I didn't chuck it during the game. And then I think it was maybe that Saturday or the following Saturday, I came on against Arbroath for my debut. So it just kind of shows you that if you just kind of stick in, a few weeks later I ended up making my debut, which was great.
So throughout that season, you were sort of gaining experience, but unfortunately, you were relegated to League Two. How was that sort of experience for you? It's so young as well, coming at that point.
It was difficult. I think I'd maybe been in. It was like the second half of the season that I was on, because personally I managed to get in the team and I played every week until the end of that season. But obviously relegations, that's not good for any club. But as I said, personally, it was great for me. So I didn't really feel the burden of relegation, because obviously, as you said, I was young. I was kind of like one of the positives. There was very few positives, obviously, getting relegated. But the fact that a young lad had managed to break through and kind of make his mark on the team, and I think there was 4 or 5 players kept on the next season. I was one of them. So to go for not getting anywhere near the first team to sign in, obviously, a new deal under Gary Naismith, it was great for me. So I didn't really feel the effects too much.
And then that following season, everyone knows, I think, how big a Hibby you are. But there was a big signing that season at East Fife as Derek Riordan joined the club. And I know you'll be able to talk about him maybe later on this week. But what was it like playing with Riordan, somebody that you probably looked up to?
Oh, it was brilliant. He was one of my heroes, Doug. Obviously, growing up, see, for just like natural ability with both feet, I don't think I'd seen anyone that good at Easter Road that was better just naturally than Riordan. I actually remember, because you'll know as well, any club I go to, I'll fight Hibs corner. I'll talk about Hibs all the time as much as I can. So obviously these 5 boys have been getting this for obviously a couple of years. So I can't mind who came up to me, but someone showed me their phone, and it was a tweet saying Derek Riordan agrees terms at East Fife, and I was just like, nah, no chance. And then obviously I was getting a bit of slagging. Like the boys left like a seat in the changing room next to me, and they're like, oh, that can be Derek Riordan's spot. And I was delighted if it would be. But then I came in, and it was strange, because at the same time I kind of thought you should be playing like top level football. I think Riordan at that time was only maybe 31, 32.
Aye.
But selfishly, obviously the chance to, and I was straight over to him. but I done my best not to. I didn't want to come on too strong, but he was a really nice guy. And the thing I noticed about Riordan was he scored a few goals for us, Doug. And see, when he scored, he celebrated like he just scored the winner in an Edinburgh derby. Like that, that love of football never left him. And always, I don't know why I found that strange, but I thought he might come in kind of not be bothered. And but he didn't play too long for us, but it was great. It was brilliant. Being able to say he lined up next to one of our heroes, Doug, was superb.
At the end of that season, your target was somewhat successful. You made the promotion playoffs, but unfortunately lost out. Was that a disappointment that you couldn't seal a quick return to League One?
It was. I mean, to be honest, Dougie, personally, I signed, after we got relegated, I signed a 2-year contract with Gary Naismith, and he kind of said to me, I think I can improve you as a player. Obviously, you've got a 2-year deal, so you've got plenty of time to do it. And then the following season, I got bombed for that team, so I didn't actually play a part. I was actually in the stand. I think we got beat in the semi-finals of the playoffs. Yeah. I think it was Stenhousemuir. So I personally, and obviously for the club as well, not to bounce. It's quite difficult to bounce straight back up. But obviously we got pretty close. But personally that was difficult. And then at the end of that season, he kind of just pulled me and he said, I'm going to go for more experience next season. So I kind of said, well, I can't age 5 years overnight. So he actually offered me to go out on loan because I had a 2-year contract. It wasn't obviously an amazing contract, but I could have earned more staying at East Fife and then going on loan. But when he kind of said that to me, I just wanted to kind of cut all ties. I just wanted to try and find a fresh challenge.
So in the end, you played 44 times for East Fife, and claiming you scored once. What was the sort of highlight of your time at East Fife, if you can think of one?
Obviously, I would have loved to have scored more goals, but I think just the achievement of being able to break into that team, Dougie, because there was a point where I thought it wouldn't happen. Obviously, my contract as an apprentice was kind of running down, and we had managers that had came in before that didn't want to look at the youth team. So I think just the fact I managed to break through and quite a good. I know we obviously got relegated, but we had some good players, Dougie. So I think, and just the people I met at the club, East Fife's really similar to Penicuik, even though it's in a higher league. There's no difference, Dougie. It's hard-working people. I mean, the fans were brilliant with me. I had quite a good rapport with the fans. Some of the games I played, I think they noticed that I gave it my all. So I think that's probably my highlight, is just leaving on good terms with people at the club.
And then that summer, the summer of June, well, it was June 2015, you returned to Penicuik. Claiming I played a part in it because people might not know this, when you were at East Fife, you used to stop into the petrol station I was working in at Dreghorn, and you used to always ask me, the one thing that stood out to me, when you always asked me how Penicuik were doing, it was always, how are we doing? How did we get on at the weekend? And that always stuck with me that you said we. So I'm claiming I was an influence in you coming back to Penicuik, even though it might not be the case.
No, you never gave me any free sweeties or juice, Dougie, so I don't know why I really came back, to be honest. But I think Penicuik, it must have had an effect on me. As you said, I never played a lot of games, but I mean, the guys I played with and some of the times I'd even gone to training with Penicuik, I loved that. I didn't enjoy training with Livingston, and I wasn't playing. And even though I wasn't playing with Penicuik, I still really enjoyed the time there. And so it's obviously had an effect on me.
So it was Craig Meikle's manager that signed you, who had been here obviously during your previous spell, but in your first spell you were coached by Brian Ryrie as well. Did you find much of a difference coming in with Craig Meikle as sole manager compared to dual managers with Brian?
I think Meikle probably enjoyed it a bit more. I think anyone that knows Meikle knows that he's got his own ideas, and so I thought Meikle's very, very persuasive, mate. So obviously I spoke to a couple of teams before I joined Penicuik, but Meikle phoned me probably double the amount of times that anyone else did, and you know that kind of was a factor as well, just how much he showed that he wanted me there. And I think with Meikle there was kind of a part of me that wanted to prove him wrong, because when I left East Fife, I kind of lost a wee bit of the hunger a bit. I kind of, the way I was, not the way I was treated because it's football, but just the way things ended at East Fife, it was quite demoralising. So I think with my football career, I've always played better if I've got something to prove, or I feel like or even if I just create that myself, I feel like that kind of helps me. So the idea of going back and proving Meikle wrong, and you know, being like a mainstay in the team, that was a big factor for me. But you know Meikle yourself, he's very persuasive, mate.
So you made your second debut on the opening day of that season against Broxburn, but I suppose what you're more remembered for at that early stage of the season was the Musselburgh game 4 days later at Olive Bank, and a certain screamer in the last couple of minutes. And was that maybe your best goal for Penicuik so early on, or?
I think it's got to be up there, Dougie. I'll need to probably look back and have a think about my best goal, but that was brilliant, because obviously I never scored a lot of goals at East Fife, so part of going to Penicuik was obviously I wanted to try and score more goals, and I probably couldn't have scored a better one. I think Summy done really well.
Aye.
I think Summy beat two men, and for a change Summy passed it. I think he just maybe took a bad touch, Dougie.
Yeah, I think he miscontrolled it.
Aye, a miscontrol, or he never used to pass to me. That's why he's on his way to be Penicuik's top scorer. But it's just one of the ones, Dougie. You hit them, and every 20 games one of them goes in, and I think my dad was behind the goal as well, so that made him happy.
Well, speaking of your dad, we'll talk about your third goal for Penicuik came up at Carnoustie, an equaliser in a game we went on to win 3-2. But talk us through running to the side of the pitch to celebrate with your dad, and some of the Twitter comments you got after that.
Aye, not just the Twitter comments, Dougie. I got an absolute pasting for that, and probably right, to be fair. But I think it's better if you put it in the context of the game as well. So that's my excuse. I think we were 2-0 down, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
And I remember, I didn't like blaming refs, but I remember the ref was just terrible. Carnoustie were kicking us all over the pitch, and it was weird. It was kind of like a build-up. We looked like we weren't going to get back into the game. And I think I scored. Did I score the equaliser?
You did, yes.
Aye, to make it 2-2. So it was just, the emotions were obviously high. I never planned to go to him. I never knew where he was standing. He just happened to be when I think it was Ryan Gay that was trying to stop me. But I spoke to my dad about that. Obviously, I knew I was coming on, and I just said it's probably something that when we're a lot older, me and my dad, we can probably look back on that video and kind of cherish it. You know, it's quite a nice moment, even though obviously I got not just on Twitter. The second I got off the pitch into the changing room, I got absolutely torn to shreds. But that was a brilliant game. That's one of my favourite games that I've been involved in. Just the way the game was going, 2-0 down. The ref was annoying us. They were kicking us all over the pitch. So I'm just glad we won. But it's something you can look back on and laugh. And it's just, obviously there's footage of it as well, so it's there for everyone to see.
I'm sure it'll circulate again after this.
Aye, definitely.
So a big thing as well in your first season back at the club was who you played with in midfield. You struck up a good partnership play, Neil Janczyk and Jockey Lister and Darryl Devlin and that, but was that maybe helping you as well, having somebody like Yanni with his experience to get you through that first season back in the juniors?
Oh, definitely, Doug. as I've said before, I kind of lost my way a wee bit at East Fife, and then honestly, mate, for as quick as I can remember, I just fell back in love with football, and playing with Yanni was honestly a massive part of that, because I remember training with Yanni, like the first few training sessions, and I just thought, if this is a standard, then I'm going to have to get myself in gear. Honestly, he was brilliant. I couldn't get near him, and I just thought me and Yanni were just suited to each other. You know, he could just sit. I think Yanni quite enjoyed having me in there. I think I always say to Yanni that I put a few more years in his career playing alongside him, but I found with Yanni that, see, just by watching him, you would learn. Like Yanni wouldn't pull me aside and tell me things that I can improve on. I would just watch him in training, or I'd see him in the game. The ball would get kicked up in the air, and he'd bring it down on his chest and take an extra touch and play it simple. But obviously, as you said, I played really good midfielders. Darryl Devlin, Jockey Lister as well was a nightmare in training to play against. He was just, people call me the rat sometimes, but he could properly rat about and get stuck in. But I ended up growing to have a really good partnership with Yanni, and I just loved it. I think Mikkel gave us a bit of a free rein as well. He knew that Yanni would obviously just sit and dictate, and I could run about like a headless chicken.
So at the end of that season, we finished 9th in the league, but we had the high, obviously, winning the Fife and Lowlands Cup against Berwick at Olive Bank, and you were one of the few players that interviewed after that game. And what I remember is you desperately trying to get us to shut up and let you away to go and celebrate. But you've improved with interviews, I will say that. But how was that for you, winning the Fife and Lowlands Cup at the end of your first season?
Oh, brilliant. Obviously, I think we started quite well in the league at the start of the season. I think we had a decent start, and obviously, probably in all my time at Penicuik, found it quite difficult to find that consistency. I think with Mikkel's side at that time, we could go toe to toe with anyone. I mean, we proved that in the cup run, but I think we just struggled to kind of do it, obviously, every week. And it proved that in the cup run. I mean, we played Kelty in the semi-final. I actually missed the game. I think I hurt my knee, so I didn't play. And I think we might have played Bonnyrigg in a league game
just after
not long before. Aye, and I think they beat us 4-0. But I remember watching the Kelty semi-final. Look, Kelty probably should have won the game. They did. They penned us in for long periods, and actually Miko was outstanding at centre half. That's one thing on that. Even the cup run, I thought Miko was brilliant. And then you've got a guy like Lofty. He gets one chance and he puts it away. So that was brilliant. I didn't usually enjoy watching games that I'm not playing, and I find it difficult. But honestly, I loved watching that game. And then obviously we played Bonnyrigg and they beat us 4-0. And I think that was just our tactic. Our tactic was just to take a 4-0 game and then go to the final. But I thought that team could go toe to toe with Kelty and Bonnyrigg. I mean, on our day we had really good players to get. And then I wasn't sure if I would play in the final. Obviously, I missed the semi-final. I think it was I can't mind who I was playing, but I wasn't sure if I'd play. But I think throughout the season I'd kind of earned Miko's trust that he could play me in there. I think I played right mid, and Jockey and Yanni played in the midfield. Jockey was brilliant. Jockey was brilliant that night. But I remember the build-up to the game. I think the kick-off was delayed. Aye, because the fans were coming in. And I'll never forget this, Dougie, because obviously cup final, everyone's nervous. You didn't play in a lot of cup finals. I'm really nervous. And then we get the news that the game's been delayed. So we're like, right, going to have to sit for a bit. So someone puts the music on. And then you look over to Yanni, right, and he starts like swinging back and forward doing this dance.
Aye.
And everyone's kind of just looking at him, just like, and then the music kind of kicks in, and then he just takes off the dancing, and people are joining in. This is before we played Bonnyrigg in a cup final, and this was just like, but I think that calmed us down, Dougie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just because, honestly, I know myself, I was really apprehensive about the cup final, and then that happened, and then the dancing with the music, and I thought we were really comfortable in the game. I think Big Dawson, the T score the first.
Did I?
Aye, but I didn't think we were troubled, and it was a brilliant occasion. The crowd, it was a massive crowd. Obviously, we'd been beat off Bonnyrigg a few weeks before, so maybe they turned up thinking we'd be a soft touch. And then Sean Patterson, you've not seen him for months. He turns up for the cup final and then wraps up the game. I mean, that just kind of sums it up. But what a moment, because I've not won a lot of cups, especially in senior football. So to beat Bonnyrigg as well, because obviously Bonnyrigg they've always been a top team in my time of playing against them. But it was just a brilliant night. It was a shame that we couldn't really celebrate because it was midweek.
Aye. So
we couldn't, like, usually if it was a Saturday night, the whole team would go out. But I think I went back to the Navarre with, I think it was Lofty and Miko, maybe that, I can't remember who else was there. We just kind of sat and had a couple of drinks. It was nice. But my interview, I mean, I've actually got one of my clients at work. He's mad into football.
Yeah.
And he loves the fact that I play football. So he's always playing that on YouTube when I go to see him, and I'm just like, I wish it would just go away. But I'm sure I had media training at East Fife when I was like 17, but I obviously wasn't paying attention. But a brilliant, I think that was the third time in Penicuik's history that would. Was that right?
Yeah,
won the Fife and Lothians. Aye, third time. So, and I think to beat Kelty, to beat Bonnyrigg, I mean, he deserved to win the cup. And I was just delighted for everyone at the club. Everyone just seemed to really get behind that team, and I think it's good when you can repay some of that support as well. I think that team deserved to win a trophy, but a brilliant night, Doug.
And after that game, Craig Meikle resigned from his role as manager, and in came Johnny Harvey. But what was the transition like from you going from Meikle to Harvey, and what was your season under Craig? What was it like?
I mean, two totally different managers. I can't remember the circumstances in Meikle leaving, but obviously straight after a cup win, it is strange when you change manager, especially after winning the Fife and Lothians Cup, as we said, third time in history. Obviously a big achievement. I didn't know a lot about Johnny Harvey before he came in, but I suppose in football you kind of just roll with it. There's no time for kind of looking back, but I owe Craig Meikle a lot. Meikle helped me discover my love for football again. He gave me games. That's what I needed at the time. He put a lot of faith in me, and as I said, he gave me that kind of role in the team that I think I kind of prospered in. Obviously I really enjoyed it. So I was a bit gutted to see him go. And obviously Johnny Harvey comes in. He brings quite a few players as well. So you're thinking, is he going to fancy me? Like any manager, anytime a manager comes in, you have the doubts. You just think maybe he's wanting a different style of player. But right away I could see he was a really good coach. But I think I actually had to win Johnny over. You probably have to ask him, but I think he had an idea of maybe playing a different way at first. But again, that gave me a motivation. I had another thing to kind of motivate me, and I never looked back that pre-season. But but two totally different managers. Johnny had like a set style of play. Like he actually had obviously he'd actually walk through it on the pitch, how he'd want you to start off attacks and stuff. But eventually I think I became a player that really suited his style, to be honest.
You mentioned Johnny coming in and bringing players in, but he also brought his own coaching staff in, and someone that came in with him was Keith Wright, who you recently had on your own podcast, and obviously a Hibs legend. How was that for you as well, working under him?
Oh, it was brilliant, Dougie. Obviously, I've learned more about Keith Wright's career, obviously having won the podcast, which we'll talk about later. But I knew a lot about Keith, obviously being a big Hibs fan, hearing stories, talking to my dad. So straight away I had so much respect for Keith, and he was just a brilliant coach. I just found when Keith came in, I just wanted to impress him. Like, he just seems, he's that type of guy that when he comes in, if he's putting on a drill, you want to do it as good as you can. You didn't want to let him down. And I think Johnny was really good at that. Johnny's obviously a good coach as well. He's a really good manager, but he can also delegate. So he brings in good coaches, and obviously Keith Wright being one of them. And Keith would take a lot of the training. By again, the boys got an earful of how much a legend he was. I actually called him Keith Wright, Hibs legend, in like one word. It wasn't just Keith Wright. But his training was brilliant, Dougie. Honestly, he never put on a bad drill once. And Johnny was, as I said, really good at that, because Johnny brought in Tony Begg, who was a brilliant coach, brilliant at the training. He brought in Kev Milne, who was brilliant at the training, a great coach. And he brought in Davy Lees, who, you want to talk about the word enthusiasm. Davy Lee's name will be under it. I've never met anyone that's so enthusiastic about just being the best version of yourself and just giving it everything. And I think Johnny was good at that. And Keith was obviously the start of that, bringing him in. Yeah. But he even brought in, I remember he brought in Alec Miller, the old Hibs manager. I think that was a pre-season. So just things like that. I really liked that about Johnny. But Keith Wright was the top man.
You mentioned not scoring a lot of goals. You only scored one that year. It was at Craigmark in October in the Junior Cup. Again, a massive deflection that, looking back, I'm not sure why I gave the goal to you at the time, but do you have many memories of that? And was it something you felt you were maybe lacking that season?
I don't, do you, honestly. I'm not just saying that because it was a shabby goal. I've not got much memory of that goal, but obviously I would have liked to have scored more goals. I think performance-wise, I'd done really well. I think obviously I played a lot of games. We played a good style of football, but I mean the stats say it themselves. You can't say that you were a goal-scoring midfielder at that point because the stats kind of back it up. But I would have, at that point, I would have liked to have added more goals. But I was really enjoying the style of play at that time. I thought some of the football I think it took a while for Johnny's style of play to kind of take off, but I mean eventually it was just a joy to play in.
And we finished fourth that year in the Super League, and then the following summer you talked about earning Johnny's trust. Ryan McCallum, who was club captain, retired. Craig Hume, who was vice captain, stepped up to replace him as club captain, and you were named vice captain by Johnny. But how was that for you, being given that responsibility, obviously at such a young age as well?
Oh, it was brilliant. It was brilliant, Dougie. Obviously, we had a great season. I mean, fourth in the Super League is a great achievement. I mean, you think of the... I mean, I was really surprised at the standard of the Super League, Dougie. I thought, honestly, even if you played bottom six, it was a tough game. And obviously, the top six were brilliant. So I thought to finish fourth, probably even could have finished higher than that, Dougie.
Yeah.
I remember being disappointed with fourth, which just shows you kind of how far we'd went at that point. But to be named vice captain, things like that mean a lot to me, Dougie. I take things like that really serious. You know,
Yeah.
it was a really proud moment. I didn't expect it, because obviously I was quite young at the time. There was obviously other candidates, and Ryan McCallum was obviously a great captain for us. But I loved it. I like that responsibility.
Right.
You know, even if it was a captaincy now, I'd take it in a minute. You know, it was brilliant, and it makes you kind of go that extra mile as well. It gives you a lift. I remember once I got it, I was like, right, here we go. You know, so it was a good moment.
I do recall you enjoying it quite a lot. I mean, speaking to you outside the pavilion not that long after you were given the vice captaincy, and I told you that I'd actually thought you were the main candidate for it, to be honest, and you seemed quite surprised at that. But you did. I think it did have a big effect on you that season, leading the team out as well. You talking about Carnoustie, we've talked about Carnoustie previously, the 3-2 game, but you actually scored your first goal in a year up there again, round about the same time year, actually, October I think it was, and that sort of set you off. You got a few after that, but the big highlight I think early on that season for you was receiving your Junior Scotland call up. Obviously Forbesy got into the main squad and you were on the standby list, but how was that for you, being even just getting on the standby list? How was that for you?
It was brilliant. I mean, honestly, mate, even just to be, probably sounds like a speech for the Oscars, someone that loses, but honestly, even say just to be recognised, it was. I'm not lying. It was. I would have liked the chance to train. I thought if I got the chance to train, I thought I could have forced my way in, even to play one of the games.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed at that. But I mean, I hadn't heard much about the Junior Scotland before that. Maybe being at one of the so-called smaller clubs, it's maybe not talked about as much, and obviously teams through in the West. But it was a great moment for me, even hearing that the guys had come to the game and obviously put you onto that list. I think they'd watched obviously quite a few of the games, so for the Scotland guys to think that I was doing well. But I was really chuffed for Forbesy, mate, because I remember thinking at the time, if there's a better right back in that Scotland squad, he's going to have to be some player, mate.
Aye.
You know, I knew Forbesy would play, because Forbesy went straight in. I knew he'd play once he was away. So I was really chuffed for Forbesy, mate, because Forbesy deserved it. I think he might have even been the top scorer or close at that point for right back.
Season before he had a good run, aye. Hadn't scored a lot that season yet, but he went on a wee run at one point.
Aye, he was definitely up there, and he was probably our best attacking outlet for right back. You know what I mean? So, aye, I remember thinking at the time, if there's a guy that's going to take his place, and he's going to have to be some player. But I think for the club, speaking to guys at the club at the time, it was brilliant for them as well to say that they've got two guys that have been recognised for Junior Scotland, because it doesn't happen very often for obviously teams through in the East as well. It seems to be dominated by obviously guys in the West. But I would have liked the chance to have a few training sessions, because I would have tried to kick some of the centre midfielders and get myself in there, mate. But it was a brilliant moment, because it just shows that it was just a reflection of how much I was enjoying it at Penicuik as well.
Yeah,
I think when you achieve things like that, it just means that you're enjoying yourself, you're playing games. So it was brilliant.
and then not long after that, we played Kilbirnie Ladeside in the Junior Cup, and I think 2 cup ties that I sort of looked back, maybe not fondly, but are well remembered. And Hume was missing through suspension and other circumstances, so you captained the side in both matches. But how was that, especially the second game at Penicuik, the 3-3 game that you scored in, but in the atmosphere that day, how was that leading out the team in those 2 big games for yourself?
Oh, it was brilliant. I mean, I loved the Scottish Cup. Obviously, I don't think we went as far as we should have in the Scottish Cup, even in my time at Penicuik. But the occasion, I actually got a bit of stick, because if you remember it, was it the Q&A? Was it the AGM? Was that what it was called?
The Q&A later on in the season, aye.
Aye, so someone asked me what my highlight of the season was, and I said it was the 2 cup ties.
Aye.
And obviously I got a bit of stick for that. But what I meant was it was just the occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the 2 ties, that was one of the highlights for me, even though obviously eventually we went out, but we should have won the first tie, Dougie.
Yeah.
I thought we should have went through. That was the biggest disappointment for me. I thought going through to the West and playing that well was brilliant. I thought we deserved to win. And then obviously going back to Penicuik, I mean, Kilbirnie brought some crowd. That was incredible. The crowd was amazing. The atmosphere was brilliant. And obviously to be captain as well, that was just aye. And as I said before, things like that mean a lot to me, even being vice captain. So to take the armband as well, and obviously to score, I still remember the goal. I didn't remember many in my own games and my goals, but I remember that because I remember obviously the crowd behind and stuff like that. So, but aye, it was a big disappointment, especially the first tie. But the occasions were great. But they were a good team as well. The teams for the West were, you knew you were in a game.
At that point in the season as well, we were competing at that point with Bonnyrigg and Lithgow for the title, and in December we played Bonnyrigg at New Dundas and we lost 3-2, and you scored in that game. But unfortunately that actually proved to be your final appearance of the season for us, as injury ruled you out obviously for the rest of the campaign. Just how big a disappointment was it for you to have to come out of the team at a point when we were pushing for the title or in contention?
Yeah, I remember the Bonnyrigg game. That was one of the games where we could have won it. Bonnyrigg obviously sneaked it. Bonnyrigg have always been good for that, sneaking probably big games. But I think it was my ankle injury.
Yeah.
That season, so that happened. That was actually during the Christmas period, and it was on a Saturday at World of Football.
Yeah.
And I was trying to chase Jack Hamilton, which, if you know Jack Hamilton and you've trained beside him, you shouldn't do it. So I went over my ankle. Obviously, it was a disappointment, but at the time I was thinking it doesn't feel too bad.
Yeah.
At the time I was like, maybe be a few weeks. Obviously we're playing that team at that time, Dougie, it was just, honestly, it was brilliant. I thought the football we played was honestly brilliant at times. I thought Lithgow were good. I thought Bonnyrigg were obviously experienced, but I thought we were just as good, mate. I thought we had a real chance. So I went over my ankle and I just thought, all right, it's a wee setback. And then I was told that I just strained my ligaments.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I've strained them before, it's not too bad. And then kind of the season finishes, and then 6 months goes by, and I'm not improved. My ankle's not improved at all, and I thought something's seriously wrong. And it turned out that I'd completely torn them.
Right.
They'd completely went. So I was misdiagnosed. So I was doing all the wrong rehab, all the wrong work that I should have been doing for torn ligaments. I wasn't doing. So I think I ended up getting an injection after about 6 months, and eventually starting to improve. But I think I missed 8 months, Dougie. So I missed the whole of the season, which was obviously a massive blow. But I ended up taking a long time.
You mentioned missing out on the rest of the season. Obviously, the big thing you missed out on was winning the East of Scotland Cup when we beat Tranent. How hard was that for you, especially having been part of the Fife and Lothians team 2 years prior?
It was really difficult, Dougie. Obviously, I knew at a certain point I'd miss it, because after a few months I knew my ankle I wasn't going to be ready for. I can't mind what month it was, but I knew I wouldn't be ready. I was actually away for the final as well.
Yeah.
I think I'd maybe booked or something because I was injured. I ended up being away. I remember thinking at the time, it might make it a bit easier if I'm like no there at all, no watching. But see on the day when I was away, and obviously I could only check the Twitter updates. I just wanted to be there. I was actually gutted I wasn't there. And obviously missing out was tough. But you know what, Doug? I was so pleased for that team that they won a cup, because, like Miko's team, I think if that team hadn't won against Tranent, it would have been a bit of a travesty. I think that team deserved to win a trophy, Doug, because obviously we had a chance of winning the league. We should have kept at it in the league. Obviously we fell short. So I was just so pleased for that group of boys that they went on and done it, regardless of how I felt, because I think John Menzies actually got me a medal.
Yeah.
He actually saved my medal.
But
I didn't think I deserved it. You know, it's just I don't think I played in any of the games, and I was just really happy for the other boys to enjoy it. I think I maybe played one game.
What say, Bathgate at the start of the season, the 4-1, and then the 7-0 at Brecon just before the Bonnery game.
All right, so I did. All right, I actually thought I only played one, so I probably obviously deserved to get a medal. But if you didn't play in the latter stages, it's difficult, eh? But it was really nice of John Menzies just to save my medal, but I was happy that team, and obviously it's nice to beat Tranent as well. I always enjoyed playing against Tranent and beating them, but I wish I'd been there to see it. But to be honest, I was still part of 2 cup winning squads, even though I never played in the latter stages. When I look back on my Penicuik career, I was part of two different really good sides, 2 cup winning squads. So I think that in itself is quite a good achievement, you know.
And then obviously that summer was a big move for basically the whole of junior football in the East, as we all sort of moved over to the Pyramid in the East of Scotland League and obviously senior football. What was going through your mind at that point when obviously it was a sort of mass exodus? What was your views on that?
I think I said at the Q&A that I was all for it. I think any time there's an opportunity to have a bit of change, and especially Scottish football, Dougie, if there's a chance to have a bit of change, because it can become a bit stale. Even in the top flight, you've got like the top 6 split, bottom 6, and it's always kind of the same. And I think when they brought in the playoffs, it was a lot better. So I was all for it. I thought it's a chance to maybe have a bit more ambition to maybe try and get up the leagues, and I think you're seeing now that the teams that are looking to come up are really ambitious. You know, I think a lot of teams in League 2 are kind of getting a bit nervous because they know there's some, honestly, there's some really ambitious clubs looking to come up. So I thought for Penicuik that it would be a good thing. Obviously, you're going into the unknown a bit. We could have went and might have hated it, or I know obviously you're leaving like the Junior Scottish Cup that was quite important to the junior teams, but I think when all the teams started to leave, you kind of had to jump on the ship before you were just left behind. So I was looking forward to it, and I said at the Q&A that we should just embrace it, and I think, to be fair, Penicuik have.
And then you mentioned you've been out for 8 months. You made your return in what was our first game back in the seniors. You came on as a sub against Socky, and a few weeks later, on your 100th Penicuik appearance, I think you were actually captain that night. You scored against Peebles. But how did that feel to sort of finally hit the milestone, having been injured for so long as well, 100 games?
I remember that. I remember that game. I remember the goal as well. With my left foot. I think that's why I remember it, because it sticks out so much, mate. But I even see just getting back for the start of that season as well, that was just an achievement in itself, because 8 months, and as I said, 6 months of that was just no improvement at all. It wasn't even like I was back jogging and nearing a return. So just to get back, obviously it put back getting my 100th appearance for a long time as well. So it's quite a milestone, 100 appearances. for Penicuik and to score. And as you said, I think I was captain as well. I think we might have won 6-2 in that game.
6-2,
but,
aye.
It was brilliant. I enjoyed all the 100 appearances as well, mate. So.
And also that season we were in the East of Scotland Conference A, and we got off to a really good start to the season. We were a very long, in the league anyway, we were on a good winning run, and sort of the period where we were scoring a lot of goals, and one of those games was a 5-0 win at Olive Bank against Musselburgh Athletic, and that game actually proved to be the game you scored your final goal for Penicuik. Ironically, at the ground you scored your first, in a red kit as well. Different Enzo, that was the only thing that ruined that. But did you know that? How did that feel looking back now? No, obviously, you didn't know at the time it was going to be your final goal, but what was your sort of thoughts around that time as well? Because Johnny left just after that match as well.
Aye, it wasn't as good a goal as my first one against Musselburgh. It was. I think it was just a tap-in.
Open goal, 2 yards it.
Aye, obviously, I never knew at the time that would be my last goal. And I'm not sure how quickly Johnny left after that game, but it was always good to beat Musselburgh, especially 5-0. That was always brilliant. But obviously at the time didn't know that was my last goal. So, but aye, any goal's good.
And obviously a few weeks later, with Johnny's departure to Berwick, yourself, Andy Forbes and Craig Hume joined them at Berwick. So what was sort of going through your mind when that move was coming up? And obviously you had a great relationship with the Penicuik fans as well. Did you sort of worry about that a wee bit?
Dougie, anyone that was close to me at that time, my family and stuff like that, knew how much I kind of mulled over that. Honestly, it wasn't a split decision when I just decided to leave, because I knew that leaving that way would probably tarnish a lot, even if it was just a little bit. It would tarnish my reputation with the Penicuik fans, and that was difficult for me. I didn't like that, because when I left East Fife, I left with obviously great backing for the fans. I had a really good relationship. It was no different at Penicuik. The fans seemed to take to me. Obviously, guys like yourself, your dad, and everyone else that worked so hard at Penicuik. I knew that what I was doing was going to cause that reaction. But I think I was just presented with an opportunity, and obviously I'd had chances maybe to go before, and I just thought I've had a really bad injury, and I thought if I didn't do it now, which probably isn't true, but I thought at the time, if I don't go now, the chance might not come again. And I just felt I'd worked myself back for injury. I'd worked really hard, and I was just flying as well, Dougie. I just felt really fit. I was playing really, really well, so I just thought that I could go and make an impact. But it was horrendous leaving that way, and obviously there was you see comments which was going to happen, but it did hurt me, because I don't think. Well, I don't mind the comments about the timing. I knew that the decision I was making in terms of Penicuik was the wrong one. I think the timing was terrible for three of the main players to leave. But I did see comments about like other things that I just thought they did really hurt me as well. But I just had an opportunity just to try and prove myself at that level. And obviously, you go to train. I went to train. We were training at Peffer Mill, and then Kev Milne just said, "Look, you'll just need to go." And the boys had actually went out to train, and I didn't like that. I didn't just want to go and not say goodbye to anyone and just kind of slip away into the night. So I actually walked out to the training pitch. Kev Milne just told me, which wasn't Kev was right to say that. Kev was right to say just to go, but I actually went out, and the boys had started to train, and I just shook everyone's hand. I just said, I just said all the best, because I just felt that it was wrong just to walk away. I didn't think the other two boys, I didn't think I was doing anything like noble. I didn't expect anyone to do it. I just felt myself that I couldn't just, because I love my time at Penicuik as well, and some of the boys, I think some of boys like Summy signed around the same time as me, so I'd been in the team with him. Obviously, Big Dawson had been there since the Miko days and stuff like that. So I just walked out, but it was a horrendous feeling just to walk out, and all the boys are looking at you just like, because boys just get on with it. The other boys in the team, just football moves on. So I think they kind of looked at me a bit strange. But I was with it. It was quite awkward, but I'm glad I'd done that, and then obviously left, mate, because everyone at the club at Penicuik was brilliant with me. Since even at my loan spell, I think that's why I had always good things to say about Penicuik, because everyone I came in contact with was brilliant with me. But I just thought I had an opportunity to go and prove myself, so I took it. But I hope that it's not tarnished too much. I hope that people still look back and think, as I said, I was part of 2 cup winning squads, in quite a short space of time. Highest Super League finish, which I think is a great achievement. And I think just the football we played, I think we played some really good stuff. So I was honestly, I was gutted to leave. But at the same time, I just took an opportunity.
Well, we'll see. In terms of, we'll see how the viewers do for this and that, and I'll let you know. So all in total, you played made 107 appearances for Penicuik over your 2 spells and scored 13 goals. Should have been more. What was your best moment at Penicuik in your 4.5 years at the club?
My best moment at Penicuik, it's probably got to be winning the Fife and Lothians. I think it's got to be winning a cup. I think that it just validates everything about football. That's why you're in football. You're in to win a cup and celebrate with your mates. But there's been loads of good times. Even as we talked about before, being made vice captain, having that responsibility was great. I just think I've just certain games that I played in, big games like the Scottish Cup games. I think playing in that team that obviously eventually went on to beat Trinent in the Cup, that was a highlight. Working with great coaches, as I've said before, Keith Wright come in, Kev Milne was brilliant, Tony Begg, meeting Davy Lees was a highlight. Obviously he eventually came to Berwick as well, but I just loved all of it, Dougie, at Penicuik. It's a club that helped me discover my love for football again, so I always look back on great fondness.
So obviously then you moved on, you were now at Berwick Rangers and you made your debut as a trialist, and shock horror, you actually scored on your debut in a 4-2 win up at Elgin. Then you actually scored a double in your second game for Berwick. So what happened there?
Aye, mate, couldn't have got off to a better start. The Elgin game, I mean, anyone that's been up and played against Elgin, that is a hard place to go. But we were brilliant. Actually, I think I set up the first one as well for Paul Willis, and I think I scored maybe the third one that kind of put us out of sight. And I remember getting on the bus back for Elgin with a can of beer thinking, this is easy. This is an absolute breeze. Obviously, fast forward a few months, but and then I think I didn't play against Albion Rovers in the next league game. Then we were 3-0 up against Clyde. I think I scored the first 2, and Clyde were probably the best team. I think Peterhead eventually won the league, but I thought Clyde were the best team. So I ended up getting a draw. It should have been 10-3 to Clyde the second half. They absolutely battered us. But we couldn't have got off to to a better start. I don't know if it was maybe just a boost having, us guys coming in, but it was obviously a great start for us.
So obviously, like you had that great start, and then obviously it went through, we'll call it a difficult run of results towards the end of the season, and there was other circumstances going against you. There was the week, what was it, the reversed 2 results or something, and that sort of put you under massive pressure, and all unfortunately, in the season, you suffered relegation, lost out against Cove Rangers in the playoff. What was that like for you, coming in, obviously having come into a team halfway through the season and then ultimately ending in disappointment?
Obviously we had a great start, but pretty quickly I knew that it would be a struggle. There was off-field stuff as well, and there just seemed to be, you kind of smell it to get at a club. There just seems to be it was like, I always felt that Berwick were kind of on that path anyway. It was kind of heading towards that point, and I just jumped on at the end. But by obviously a great start, and then we just went on. See, once you get on a run like that, it's really hard. It's really hard to kind of get out of it. I just thought there was different circumstances as well that, like for us as well, even in the team, obviously not performing well enough. And then I think we played a game and Albion Rovers got awarded 3 points, but they also won that day as well, so it was a 6-point swing. But then I think we beat top of league Peterhead, which gave us a slight chance, and then it was kind of a bad run after that. We played Albion Rovers and kind of like a decider, and got well beaten, Doug. And then obviously you're into the relegation playoffs, and as I said before, you've got ambitious clubs on the way up, and then I think they just collided with a team that probably wasn't good enough to stay up. And I think Cove proved that. I think Cove went on to win League 2 the following season with pretty much the same squad. I didn't play in the first leg. John Brownlee actually came in, another Hibs legend. And obviously I'd been playing, it was strange because I actually had probably my best season performance-wise, or best 6 months. In terms of goals, I scored a lot of important goals. So I kind of proved a point to myself that I could play at that level. It was just obviously unfortunate that I was we were obviously struggling. And then John Brownlee actually pulled me before the game in the first leg, and he said, "I've heard a lot of good things about you, Lewis." And I was like, "Oh, brilliant, I'll be starting the day." He said, "But I'm not going to play you." And I just thought, "Oh, no." So John Brownlee, another Hibs legend, absolutely crushing. And then I think they beat us 4-0 in the first leg. And then I played the second leg. I think we got a man sent off. I think it was 7-0 on aggregate. But do you know what? That's why the playoffs are so good, Doug, because Cove deserved to be in League 2 and we deserve to be in the league below, So I think that's why the pyramid system's so good. It would help if more teams could get promoted at the same time. It would make it a bit easier. But I think Cove well deserved it. They had a brilliant team. And I reckon when you suffer relegation, it gives you a chance to rebuild and kind of reset. And I think if you look at Berwick now, off the field, it's probably in the best place. I can't speak for, the years gone by, but I think it's in the best place for a long, long time. So I think relegation can be a positive thing eventually. I think it just gave a chance for Berwick to reset. By suffering relegation was just horrible to get. The second leg was down at Berwick as well, and Cove had probably more fans than us. Obviously, it was 4-0, so Berwick never had a good turnout. Obviously, the game was gone. but it's given us a chance to reset, I think.
You mentioned John Bringley had came in, and we'll just sort of rewind a wee bit, and obviously just before a few games to go in the league game, Johnny left Berwick as well. How hard, what was that like for you? Obviously Johnny he'd worked on at Penicuik, he brought you to Berwick, and now he was away from Berwick. How was that for yourself?
It was difficult, but you can't really be surprised with the run we're on that Johnny got sacked. I think he'd even say that now, but the only thing was, I thought they maybe left it too late. Was it worth maybe sacking Johnny just before the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not sure. Obviously, I'll always be thankful to Johnny for taking me there. And to be honest, again, he kind of suited me because he played me in a role where I had my best goal scoring probably per ratio of games. So I still, and obviously he brought Davy Lees and stuff with him. So I still enjoyed it. It was weird, a bit similar to East Fife. I still kind of enjoyed it myself, even though I just try and make the most of things as well.
Yeah.
Even with like training but obviously you're not surprised when Johnny goes, and you know you need to get Johnny on to ask. He's probably got things that he thought that he could have done better. We definitely could have performed better. But I just thought maybe the timing was a bit strange just before the playoffs. Do you give Johnny the chance to keep us up? But it was difficult, and I felt for him because I think anyone that knows Johnny knows that he puts everything into it. I mean, he's just like, he's 24/7 in the job, and I think obviously he tried everything, obviously to make us better. But it's difficult when you go on a run like that, Doug. And then obviously John Brownlee came in to take over, and I knew that he'd only be like a short term. I didn't think he'd stay long term. I think he was just in just to see if he could make an impact. But cover a top side, so it would have taken a good manager to win that tie, Doug.
And obviously John Brownlee left, and Ian Little, who came in as his number 2, became Berwick manager. And obviously you then went into the Lowland League for your first full-ish, we'll call it, season with Berwick, where you made 34 appearances and scored 4 goals. But how was that for you, obviously having went from East of Scotland to League 2, then to the Lowland League? What was the sort of, do you feel there was much of a difference in standard at that point? Or
I don't think there is, Dougie. The top half of the Lowland League, there's no much of a difference. Maybe probably you always get the top couple of teams in League 2 that maybe a level above. But in terms of like the top half, there's not much difference. It's really tough. I mean, I've been quite fortunate. I got to experience a few different leagues in quite a short space of time. But I've found the Lowland League is a really good standard, and I think some people thought that Berwick could maybe bounce straight back up. But to be honest, I know football well enough, and I knew that it would be really difficult. It's very difficult to go down to the Lowland, and obviously one team only wins the league, and then one team goes up through the playoffs. It's really tough. But I've just tried to embrace it. As I said, it gave the club a fresh start. I think people have enjoyed maybe different away days.
Yeah.
In the Lowland League, Berwick fans have not experienced some of the places that we've went to. So I think as long as you embrace it, then I think you'll be all right, Doug.
Well, like you say, you must have taken to it well. You won 5 Player of the Year awards at the end of the season with Berwick. Obviously, the season was ended due to a certain virus we won't name. How disappointing was that for you to have the season curtailed at that point as well?
It was a shame to have it curtailed. Obviously, the season that I won the 5 awards was brilliant for me. Obviously, personally, obviously I won the Players' Player as well, which is one that it's probably the best one to win. Really, and it just, again, it was a reflection of how much I enjoyed it at Berwick, because Berwick's really similar to Penicuik. Similar people, you know, that work at the club, just give all their time to the club and don't ask for anything in return. And then as you said, the season gets completely cut short, and obviously there's not much that you can do about it. Obviously we weren't going to achieve much anyway, and we weren't going to get relegated. You know, I think we were just sitting mid-table. But it was, and obviously it's been a long layoff as well, so it's been difficult.
And also you came back. You also had an injury towards it. I think, though, if it was towards the end of that period, or so you missed the start of this season. What a season it's been! But you came back from injury in November against Stirling Uni, and then I think you might have played 3 or 4 games before we were stopped again. And has that been frustrating for you? Just you're back in and back out again.
Aye, it's been obviously. I think with the COVID, the first shutdown, it was maybe we never played for 6 months.
Yeah,
6 to 7 months. So we ended up coming back. We trained for 2 weeks, and I actually ended up tearing the ligaments in my foot. So I was only back for 2 weeks, and I missed 6 weeks. And I actually only came back for 2 games, Doug. I came on for 10 minutes, and then I got half an hour, and then I've been waiting. I think I've had hip trouble since my last days at Penicuik, really, so it's been a long time. So I was on the waiting list to get an operation on my hip. So I come back for 2 games. I've waited about a year and a half on the NHS. You'll know what it's like. And then I come back, and then I get my letter that says you're going to have to obviously get my hip operation. So all in all, I think it's coming up to a year since I played a full game of football. The time of the injury, doing my foot, obviously COVID, and then having an operation, obviously all put together, has been tough. You know, it's been a long time without football. Everyone's obviously missing football with the shutdown, but obviously for me it's obviously been a bit longer. But obviously there's more important things. Try and put into perspective. You know, it could be a lot worse. You know, some people are really struggling as well. So I kind of try and stay positive, mate.
So we'll weave now your sort of playing career so far, and I set you a challenge before we came on to this, and it was to pick your best Cuikie team. Now, I offered you the option to go 5-a-side. You chose to go 11-a-side and make it harder for yourself. So I'll let you reveal what I actually don't know what your team is. So I'm going to let you go through it, and then you can sort of talk me through some of your choices. Right.
I had to go 11-a-side because that's been hard enough, because I couldn't pick a 5-a-side team. So I thought I'll do an 11-a-side team, but it's been difficult. So I'll go through the team. I've got quite a big subs bench as well, because I found it difficult leaving some boys out. I've not picked myself as well. I don't think I was good enough. I'm not good enough to get in this team, Dougie. So in goals, I'm going for Big Yossi. I don't think you'll be too surprised. Big Yossi not only gave me a lift to training, so I've got him to thank him for, because without him, I had tough to get the 47 up to Penicuik and back, mate. But I remember Yossi is one of the keepers that would probably win you 12, 15 points a season, and that's not even exaggerating. Like, I'm sure you'll agree, Dougie, that I can think of countless games where he's saved us and we've managed to either win the game or get a point. And he was just good for the dressing room as well. He looked after me. He was always there for me, and if I wanted to talk to him, he'd always back you up. as well, but he's a top keeper. But to be fair, Kyle Allison was quite unlucky. I thought Kyle was a really good keeper. Mad, like I've never met anyone so aggressive before a game. He was incredible, but I thought that's what we missed at Berwick, because he came to Berwick. I think he dislocated his knee. I think he got quite a bad injury, and I thought we missed his presence and his character, mate. But Big Yossi, I thought he was a top keeper. So I'm going for a back four. So I went right back, Andy Forbes. I don't think again you'll be too surprised. Scotland junior cap. And as I said before, he was probably our best attacking outlet for going forward. It would always be Forbesy that you'd kind of look for. Brave as well. Forbesy was brave. He could tackle. He could defend. He can attack. You know, there's not many fullbacks that can, you know, be brilliant going forward and can defend. And he was just great to play alongside as well. So he was a shoe-in at right back. So left back, this was difficult, but I had to get Greg Ross in. So I've put Greg Ross. I just thought, just for ability, I thought Greg Ross could have played midfield. He could have played centre mid. I just thought he was a top player. I thought he could have. I think he maybe went to Cowdenbeath after Penicuik, but he could have played a lot higher. One of the guys that could easily have played higher. I've left out Stephen Noble. I thought it was a good left back. I thought he was quite unlucky. Ryan Bapty as well. More going forward with Bapty. I thought going forward Bapty was brilliant. Mikey McDermott was, I mean, leaving him out was very tough. Probably didn't play. Obviously, Mikey was coming to the end of his career, and he obviously left Penicuik, so probably didn't play a lot of games with Mikey. But if he was that good at that age, then he would have been some player in his heyday. So my first centre half is Big Dawson. Gone with Big Dawson because I've put him in because under Miko he didn't play as much. Obviously, my first time at Penicuik, I'm not sure if he was maybe trusted as much. Obviously, he was a bit younger as well. Then just seeing kind of the progression that Dawson's made during the time I was there, and then obviously since I've left, he's still obviously. But I just thought he turned into a top player. I didn't think at the start he was there. I don't know if it was a confidence thing, but playing out for the back, he's brilliant. Could probably play midfield. Really good football player, and a great guy as well. Had a lot of good times with Big Dawson as well. So my other centre half is Craig Hume. I've put him in just for the time I played with Hume. Obviously, a really good defender, but also a leader, which is I think something that you need. And I think in terms of communication, Hume's big. I mean, I always liked having Hume behind me because he'd get you told, or you know, he'd just be non-stop talking. Even if he was barking for no reason, he'd still be shouting at a ref or and I think he was really good for Dawson as well. I think they were quite a good fit. I think Dawson played a lot better alongside Toomey. So that's my back four. So I've went for a diamond in midfield.
Right.
That's my formation. Don't know, just try to sound like the manager there, but I just had to fit these four midfielders in, and they couldn't play on the wing, so I went for a diamond. So I went for Neil Janczyk at the sitting, and the diamond, obviously said before, just a top player. Helped me a lot, improved my game without even talking to me. Could take the ball anywhere. Probably megged me 3 times a night at Penicuik, Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah, he was great at that one touch round the corner. He was always brilliant at that. So Yanni's in there. Probably the best player I played with at Penicuik, I would say. So he's got to be in there. The right of the diamond, I've got Ryan Gay.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ryan left a bit earlier in my career, but I think if he probably done a greatest ever Penicuik team, he'd probably be in the conversation. So I don't think I could leave Ryan out, and he was a brilliant crosser, Doug.
Right.
You'll know yourself. Just when he took that touch and he just whipped it.
You knew where it was going.
The best I've seen at that. Oh, he was just free kicks. And he was another one when I started training, trying to get the ball off him and try and get close to him was impossible, mate. So I've had to get Ryan Gay in there. Left of the midfield is Sam Jones.
Yeah.
Went with Sam in there. I think when Yanni left, people were kind of saying that could me and Sam play together because we were quite similar. Obviously, like to go forward, but I thought we proved them wrong. I thought me and Sam had a really good partnership because Sam can do the other side. Sam can take it and can sit and take the ball and play passes. I just thought he was really talented as well for his age. He was quite mature the way he played, and he scored important goals and always played well in the big games as well. So I've had to get him in. At the head of my diamond is Scott McCrory. I've went for Scotty.
Yep.
Just for ability, just for pure ability. I think Scotty's probably got the best touch. One of the best touches I've probably played with. I thought it was really good, and I thought me and him played quite well together in the Penicuik team. I thought some of the stuff we played was brilliant. He's just like a total football kind of football player. Eh? He's just all about technique and stuff, and so I had to get him in. But the midfield was tough. Obviously, I've left it Cal Connolly, was a top player. He's obviously went on to achieve great things with Penicuik. Probably didn't play as much as a pairing with Cal, as many games I don't think as like some of the others. So I thought so he was quite unlucky, but he was a great player. I've left out Monty as well.
Yeah.
In the midfield, I think if Monty had a run of seasons, because he'd always seem to go missing at the end of a season, he'd come in, score 6 and 7, and then
disappear again.
See him again. So that's why he's not made my team. But I fit Monty was a top player. So my 2 up top is I've went for Lofty up top. When he first came to Penicuik, he actually played on the wing.
Yeah. And
he struggled. He struggled under Meikle at first, and then we played Bo'ness at home, and he played up front. I think that was the first time he played up front, and he was man of the match, and he never looked back. He played up front ever since that game, and he was just all about goals. Didn't run much. I like to tell him had 2 absolute rubber calves, but if you wanted a goal, and he scored loads of important goals, like what we spoke about. He was a boy that obviously you wanted in your team. I've also went for Summy up top. I think a guy that's going to go on to be Penicuik's greatest ever goal scorer, and I obviously played with him, so I think he deserves to go on my team. As I said, we signed at a similar time at Penicuik, and I just thought we had quite a good understanding as well. And he's all about goals.
Aye.
You know, he didn't want somebody doing much outside the box. You know, he's not interested, which is fine. But if you want a goal with 10 minutes to go, You want somebody in your team. Aye, somebody's your man. But the strikers were tough because I had Sean Patterson, Ryan McCallum. He was always brilliant in big games. He was a great striker. I thought Stephen Scott was a great wee striker. His goals record was really good. Played with Big J-Mo. Jack Hamilton, when he came to Penicuik, even though he was quite raw at the time. Big Wayne McIntosh came in one season, scored 40 goals. And we Lumbo as well. Lumbo was a top player. So I think that team's decent. But just got I couldn't get in it. Wasn't good enough.
So, do you have your subs bench here? Do you just want to name them, or is it?
I've just went through them. It's quite. I just spoke about the boys, so it's Kyle Allison, Stephen Noble, Bapty, Cal Connolly, Monty, Sean Patterson, Big McCallum, Stephen Scott, J-Mo, Jack Hamilton, Wayne McIntosh, Lumbo. But you sent me the list, and there was honestly, mate, there was a few others that probably could have got in, but I think just the ones I played with I think that's a pretty decent team.
I think I sent you a list with 76 players, and I think you've named half of them.
Incredible.
So finally, the only thing I want to really talk about now is, I said in my introduction to this that the inspiration for bringing back Cuik Talk was watching you doing Keep the High Balls Low, your debut episode. So obviously you've just started that, you're 2 episodes in, with a third coming this Friday with Derek Riordan. But what was the inspiration for you to start a podcast at this point?
I think I've always loved podcasts. I mean, I fall asleep listening to podcasts. I'm just anything to do with. It's mostly football, but there's other things that I like as well. Obviously, I enjoyed Cuik Talk when it was first out as well, so maybe a wee bit of inspiration there. But I just obviously I've had a lot of time off. I was signed off work for like 2 months from operation, so I was kind of just thinking of something that could give me a bit of focus. And I've always obviously I watch podcasts with like ex-footballers and things like that, and I just thought I'd just give it a go. I've actually got like a obsession with like the older generation of players, like before my time. So I watch a lot of stuff with like people telling stories, and so I just thought, if I could do that as well. But honestly, it was just in a selfish kind of way. It just means that I get to talk to people that I quite admire as well. So there's that side of it. But I just thought I'd give it a go. I mean, like the technical side and getting the setup, I mean, I'm still miles off it, but I just thought if I could get good guests, then I'd kind of be all right. But it saved me a wee bit. Obviously, we've all got a lot of time on our hands, and obviously I'm no back running. I can't keep myself fit, so having a podcast every week has been a great thing for me. And the thing I enjoy most about it is actually the research. That's what I enjoy most. So when I was getting like guys like Keith Wright and Gary Mackay, I've loved that side of it. It's just given me something to look forward to, mate.
So what's your plans for the future with the podcast, and obviously playing as well, if you eventually do get yourself fit again?
Hopefully eventually. But just now, I'm just going to concentrate on the podcast. I have no real grand plans for the podcast. The success of the podcast for me is getting it set up, inviting someone in, and the stream going all right. That's like a success for me, Dougie, honestly, because obviously my podcast goes out live as well. So that's why I picked Keith Wright, because I knew that Keith Wright would at least give me, like, when Keith Wright does something with you, he just gives you it all, like he gives you everything. And I knew he'd be nice to me as well, even if it didn't go well. He'd give me his time. And honestly, I picked Keith Wright for a reason, because I knew he'd be a really good guest. But I was actually quite surprised at his story, because I knew I knew bits about Keith Wright, but when I actually researched that he got released for Hibs at 16, had to go down to Division 3, and then ended up winning a cup with Hibs and scoring in the final. I mean, that's like fairy tale stuff, eh? And I thought, if I could get him onto the podcast to tell that story, I didn't have to say much. So I've no great plans. I'd like to do like a lower league kind of section.
Yeah.
Get guys, so like obviously guys lower leagues like Penicuik and guys like Lowland League. So I'd like to have kind of a feature like that. But it's all about the guests as well. I just want to have interesting guests.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to concentrate on that just now. Obviously, we don't know the plans when football's coming back. So I'm just concentrating on getting myself fit. Obviously, it's been a long time that I've been out for, so it's going to take me a while to get back. But I've really enjoyed the podcast. It's been great, and people have been good to me as well. Gary Mackay, he was another one. He was my coach when I think I was about 10. So I knew that again that he'd be up for it. And obviously my hero's coming on Friday, so it's good, mate. But no, hopefully everyone can get back soon. Obviously, I'm sure the guys at Penicuik are itching to get back, and I'm sure there's a lot of good work. I know the guys at Berwick have done brilliant. They've looked after all of us players really well, and that's one thing. If you do join Berwick, you know that you'll get well looked after.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I know for a fact that's no different at Penicuik. So I just hope that we can at least get back to training soon, because I think people need it. I think they need something to look forward to, mate. So.
Well, I think an hour and 45 minutes, I think we can call it there. It's we did say we'd probably go over the 40-minute limit. So all the best for Friday, obviously with Derek, and all the best with the podcast going forward, and getting back playing with Derek and that once we're allowed. And thank you for coming on.
Aye, no worries. I apologise to everyone that they have to listen to us two waffle on for an hour and 45, mate. But good luck with the rest of the Cuik Talk. I'll be listening in, mate, and hopefully we can get back to it soon. But it was great catching up with you, Dougie. It's been a long time, mate. So.
Aye.